So maybe we can start with a question that's to all of you guys. Is the future of retail is very broad, and I guess like the talk of the town when it comes to that usually is Amazon. With I guess like maybe 15 years ago, me being also from Germany, everyone said that nobody's gonna order like bigger priced items online. But now Amazon is this massive player that ships things to us like extremely quickly, and a few people I guess have the thesis that that retail is going to go away. So I guess let's catch like a quick opinion poll from all of you guys. What do you think the future of retail is, and what is the product or the company that you're working for? What are you contributing towards that?
Yeah. I think from Cyriac is a quote that actually in the next 5 years there's more development in the retail sphere than in the last 100 years, and this is exactly what we see. So right now the classic brick and mortar merchants want to achieve the same quality of data, the same tools of communication like the Amazons and the e-commerce companies of the world, and therefore, you need like a connection to customers, and for us, the mobile is a very big connection to a customer, really, and doing this. And mobile payment, in a way, is the medium to get the payment done in the retail, but furthermore, to open up a communication channel. And this is what we aiming for as a payment service provider. There is a great saying about mobile payment. Mobile payment is not about payment. You don't solve any problem, because in principle, everybody can pay everywhere. You have to solve like problems and helping establishing new services, and this is what it's all about. This is what the
I would say that the future of retail is really about making retail more enjoyable, so I don't see it necessarily going away, but I think the retailers are going to focus on getting the kind of data that Amazon can get on their customers, and for NewAer, we think proximity is a huge player in that space, so being able to tell where in a store customers are standing, what kind of products are they looking at, what kind of products are they interacting with, and being able to provide experiences to users in store that are as delightful and informative as what Amazon is providing online is really where retail is headed. I don't think that Amazon's going to destroy all the brick and mortars, but I do think they're taking a big chunk out of the pie, and retailers have to make a shift to providing smarter experiences for users.
So I guess you brought up a good point, is that technology allows you to know your customer a lot better than before. And you were saying sort of you know a lot more, or you can be a lot more context aware and push the right things to the right customers. Maybe for the two of you guys, maybe for Sina, who ran a big e-commerce company, what kind of tools have you used, and what tools has technology given you to better target and address the customer?
Well, the technology we used to have 3 years ago was a complete different one as what we have today. So 3, 4, 5 years ago, it was all about getting people to your sites, and then you used the pump gun and then looked whoever you acquired for your company. Today it's more about two things. The first one is data. So you are analyzing data, you are having a business intelligence department, which you didn't have 3 years, 4 years ago, and you identify the target groups and then connect them with the right content. And secondly, I think especially e-commerce is not only about shopping, it's also about content. So you provide some additional stuff, like user reviews, like blog entries, like celebrities who have, you know, the shirt you are supposed to buy. So it's much more data driven, it's much more analytics into it, plus there is a disruption from mobile to e-commerce, right? Last month we had 52% of all sales in Turkey by mobile devices. You know, and this is a very big number. 12 months ago, the share of mobile sales was 9%, so it's really catching up. I have the feeling that whatever we have talked 5 to 10 years ago becomes reality now, and it's still beginning.
Cyriac, maybe you can tell us a little bit how you're helping physical retailers to get people into the shop and to buy more, or to just sort of know more what's happening in the shop.
Well, we do that by going back to the question of what is the #1 problem every retailer has, and what is the biggest issue of every consumer. And if you asked any retailer in the world, what's your biggest problem, they will always answer you the same thing, except they will use different words for it, but they always mean the same thing. It's called foot traffic, getting people through the door. And the reason why foot traffic is so interesting or important is because the conversion rates are really high once you get them in the store. That's very different from the online world. Conversion rates in the online world are like 0.5%, maximum 3%. Unless you're Amazon, you reach 8%. You're the hero on the block. You never top 10 though. In the physical world, that would be devastatingly low. In the fashion world, it's 20%. They think they're terrible, and yet they have a 40x conversion rate compared to online. In the electronics world, it's 50%, and in groceries, it's 95%. And by the way, in quick service restaurant, it's 99% because you don't go to McDonald's and figure out you're not hungry. So in other words, if you can only get them through the door of the store, you stand a very good chance of making a sale. So we asked a simple question. If foot traffic is the biggest problem of every retailer, then how come no one ever rewards anybody for visiting a store? Why only for purchases? Why not for visits? It's a very simple question. And the answer is it's a banal answer, because nobody has a clue that you're there. Because the only time they find out it's you, that it's actually Sina being at the store, is when Sina actually swipes his credit card. In other words, when he's leaving. And I find it kind of awkward that people are being greeted when they're leaving the store. It's kind of strange. It's like, how are you doing today? Okay, bye. And so 100 years ago, that was a little different, because people got greeted when they walked in. And they would have said, how are you doing today, Sina? Did you like the cereal you bought last week? And you would say, yeah, I liked it. And you say, you should try that other one too, it's on aisle 16. Nowadays, they don't even know you're there. And so to address all of that, I think we need to go back to the roots and say, what is shopping about? What is shopping supposed to be? And ideally, shopping should be enjoyable and personal. But for the sake of scaling retailing in the last 100 years, shopping has become less personal, perhaps even less enjoyable too. And so, in a strange twist and ironic thing that I find really fascinating, in order to make shopping more personal again, we have to add more technology, not less. And so Shopkick is in the business of adding more technology to make shopping more personal and enjoyable again. And the impact is dramatic, because we're talking about a $3.3 trillion industry in the United States alone. Trillion, not billion, trillion. It's the third largest industry in the world after energy and healthcare, both of which are highly regulated. So you're talking about the largest non-regulated industry, and their biggest problem is foot traffic. So why in the world does nobody give me anything for walking in? So because nobody knows, and because there's no technology. And so we were forced to come up with a new technology that eliminates that problem and allows me to know that you're actually present. And without that technology, you wouldn't be able to do it, because GPS cannot do it. GPS is very inaccurate. In fact, so inaccurate that you can only know that somebody is a block or two away, but not that they're in your store. So we had to start from scratch. And we're talking about 2008 here. No iBeacons were even on the horizon. And even those cannot do it today, because they're bleeding through the door, so they can't do it either, because you would reward people who are in the parking lot.
So speaking of iBeacons, how is the market? I mean, when you guys started in 2008, I think like you used a particular sound frequency, right? That was emitted by a sensor that you put into the retail store to know the location. As you were saying, there was no iBeacon, there was no other technology around to be able to locate you. How has the market changed after Bluetooth Low Energy came out with iBeacons? Because I guess there's a lot of companies out there right now who are using the iBeacons, and I guess like NewAer has both using the iBeacons and has another approach to being able to deliver messages to the customers. So for you, how has the market changed with all these competitors coming in? Have they just validated you, or how has your own role in that market changed?
Well, the biggest change for me is that finally people understand that GPS can't do this. And it's sort of funny for me that it took 4 years. We had to go to retailers and say, well, this is great. And they say, yeah, I love that. But GPS can't do that. Really? Well, and so now like, it's on everybody's mind that you need some other technology. Now here's the thing. We love iBeacon. iBeacon is wonderful. It's great. Unfortunately, it can't do what we do, because iBeacon is based on a radio frequency, right? It's a radio signal. And radio signals, by definition, bleed through walls and through glass doors and all of that. Just like your radio comes into your house, it doesn't stop at the door of your house. It also goes outside of the house if you broadcast from inside. And therefore, you would reward people who are in the parking lot, or worse, next door at your competitor's store, or in a mall, people who walk by your store instead of in your store. That's not ideal either. But iBeacon does have one advantage, which is awesome. It can wake up an app and remind you to open an app when you're not running it. That's awesome. Ultrasound is always better for accuracy because it's a mechanical sound wave. And if you remember your physics class, it's basically stopping at any obstacle because it's an audio wave. And so the combination of ultrasound and iBeacon is kind of awesome. So we created a technology called shopkick hybrid, which is a hybrid that contains ultrasound as well as iBeacon in one device. And we use iBeacon as an activator and ultrasound as a verifier that you're really inside the store. And the combination of the two is killer because it can wake you up and it can verify you're really present. And then one last point about iBeacon. You got to be careful about it because the system itself is completely open, which means there's a lot of free riding potential too. So imagine you walk into a Walmart store and your Amazon app welcomes you and says, hey, that's awesome that you're here, but make sure you always check prices first. So that's maybe not ideal. So you got to work on technology that eliminates all these issues. So we worked on Bluetooth Low Energy for about a year before iBeacon came out, and we were practically done. Most of our work was to work on resolving all of these problems and bringing them into a combination with ultrasound as well as security layers and battery management, department walk-ins, all of that, and then bring it back together into one device. So it's great, but you have to be careful how you use it. And if you use it right, it's great.
Okay, so I guess speaking about hyper-local commerce and knowing like where in the shop are you, who are you, and so on. Cyriac and Shopkick has like a particular take. They've definitely been like the big pioneers in that space. And now maybe Nick, you can tell us a little bit about what the take of NewAer, and maybe what I would actually be really interested in is, because you guys give the tools to developers to create applications on top of your platform, what's the coolest stuff that you've seen out there, and what do you think really works in that space?
For us, we think we have a product called Kiosk that allows you to have a reactive sign that reacts to you when you walk into a particular environment. So rather than rewarding you necessarily for walking into a store, you can be rewarded for actually interacting with something that's telling you more about a product, or we all see the digital signage everywhere. This last weekend we were at the Wearable World Hackathon and we did a hack on digital signage for American Airlines, and there the idea was, when you're in the airport, you don't know where your gate is. It's a foreign airport that you've never been in before. You don't know where the Starbucks is, but you want a coffee. Why can't the signage actually react to you as a customer based on your phone in your pocket and show you, here's your gate information, because you have the American Airlines app and they know what flight you're going to take, and show you a map of where your gate is, show you where the Starbucks is, and give you an offer on Starbucks. And maybe that offer at that point, because it's it's the right time experience is going to get you to go in and actually give the store that kind of foot traffic because you're looking for coffee at that moment in time. And so for us, we're really focused a lot on use cases that are providing right time experiences that motivate you to do the things that not only you want to do, but that the retailer wants you to do as well. So, but we've seen a lot of other use cases for sort of beacon technology and for our platform, and you're absolutely correct that we're trying to build a platform that, you know, people can do things that are beyond what we're imagining and beyond the limits of what we can think of. We have other ones that are around child safety, for instance. So give your kid a Bluetooth earpiece and have your phone in your pocket, and your phone can ring when your kid walks off too far. Or some other use cases are things like you could imagine Tinder offering you not just people that are based on some geofence that, like you said, doesn't work very well. You know, here I'm in San Francisco and you're going to offer me to meet somebody that's in a bar across town. That's not really useful to me. I would prefer to know who's in the bar that I'm in right now that might be interested in meeting up with me. And so those sort of direct device-to-device discovery things are more interesting to us than the iBeacon use cases. A lot of the things that we're seeing people use iBeacon for end up feeling like very spammy experiences. You walk into the Apple store and you walk by the wearables and it says, there are wearables you could buy here. Would you like to buy them today? And it's sort of like if I wanted a wearable, I would look at the rack and buy it. You don't have to tell me that. So we're really focused on experiences that really delight the customer and provide the sorts of experiences that you get online with Amazon where they have additional information about you. So we can also feed analytics on who's standing in front of say, if you're in a car dealership, a particular vehicle. You can have a tablet there, and you know, most of the car dealerships now have tablets that give you information about the vehicle that you're looking at, and you can give that information about who's standing in front of the tablet, and maybe I, as a customer, can take away a leaflet about the particular car that I'm interested in, and the dealer gets information about which are your most popular models, which ones are, you know, what kind of people are looking at a particular car model, to give them that kind of smart data that's going to enable them to provide a better experience for customers and give you that sort of right time experience.
I think, Nick, you made a great point about these applications being spammy. Me being a German, sometimes I get a little bit freaked out about sort of the privacy aspect of all this, because sometimes, I mean, at the moment, I want to be able to walk into a store and maybe not check in, even though it's awesome to get a great offer and for the retailer to give me a better experience. But sometimes I just want to walk in and I don't want the store to know what it is. And I think Joern brought up a great point before. Is Joern was saying that no one ever complains about Amazon, right? If you're on the Amazon website and they actually serve you damn good recommendations of what you should buy, I've never heard anyone complaining about that. So maybe let's go back to the privacy aspect for 1 second, because it's amazing for the retailers and for brands to know who's in the store and to be able to serve them better ads. But what's your take on privacy, and especially offering the consumer or pushing information to the consumer that's actually relevant for them and not just advertisement?
First thing is there are technologies that are established, like loyalty cards. If you have a loyalty card, I think you do a check-in in a store. So these kind of projects are really running and live. And what the new technologies like Beacon do is having like more other ways to do this. But in principle, these kind of interactions between the merchant and the customers are there. I think that as a payment service provider, we are under a high pressure of certification, and we have a bank license, so we know everything about personal data security. But when it comes to value-added services, in principle, it's a big question how relevant this really is. Spamming is something that turns you off, because you get so much spam in your inbox and stuff like this. This is something you don't want to see. And what you mentioned, if if a beacon just displays information that is visible for me because just this is my location, I think I get offended. This kind of stuff has to really do something with my spending history, with my individual profile, and then people will react on this. Otherwise, this will not work. That's my perspective. So we play around with beacon payments. We will set up a project with a company called Orderbird in Germany, where you go in a restaurant, check in with a beacon, and then the payment is done with your credit card details that are stored in a secure token. And there you solve a problem. You solve the problem of you have to wait for the waiter to take the payment. And this is what it's all about. You have to solve problems because otherwise this is not working.
I would probably add, I think when it comes to privacy, I think three things matter. The first thing that matters is the idea of the golden rule. Whatever I would not want to be done to me, I should not do to others. Very simple. And that has to do with respect and so on. Like, what I don't want to get, other people most likely don't want to get either. And I have to be careful that I don't impose a very lax standard. But if I impose a very strict standard, what I don't want to be happening to me, not to others, then I'm probably on a good track. The second one is control. I need to give you a chance to make choices and decide what you want. By the way, most people will decide to allow a lot if they only have the choice, but it makes them very upset if they don't have the choice. And I think that makes a lot of sense. It goes back to the golden rule. I want to be in control of my own destiny as well, so why would I let my users be in control of it? And the third one, potentially the most important one, is it has to be valuable what I provide to users. And if I don't provide value, then why would I provide it in the first place? So I think it goes back to a very basic principle. I think oftentimes privacy goes into way too theoretical territory. I think this is a very practical thing. Don't send me stuff that is useless to me and that I wouldn't want to have, and let me control if I want to turn it on and off. And that's what privacy is, I think.
That's a great point. I guess sometimes if you have too much technology around, you realize that the physical world strikes back, even if it's just a simple water bottle. But I think today, in an earlier panel, they were talking, or a guy made a comment saying that if you start a new startup and you really want to be a billionaire in these times, you need to go to the emerging markets like Indonesia or really fast-growing markets. So I think when we're talking about the future of retail, we're always talking about what happens like in a developed world, but maybe for a second we can talk about the future of retail in emerging markets. And one really interesting topic there, for instance, are alternative payments. So maybe, Sina, you can talk a little bit about your experience in building up an e-commerce company in the emerging markets.
Well, also in the emerging markets, there are big differences about, all aspects of e-commerce or retail. Turkey is a credit card Eldorado, is one example. So everybody has a credit card. It has the second highest credit card penetration after the UK. And so it's very easy for an e-commerce player or for a retail player to get the payment done, right? And there is still a big challenge for Turkey, despite the fact of the credit cards. There are 35 million people online, but only 10 million are spending money using their credit cards. So to get the other 25 million, we need to have alternative payment systems, like local ones, like PayPal or whatever. I think there is a big potential in there. If you go to the Ukraine, almost nobody uses credit cards. So the challenge is to convince those people to use credit cards. Only 15% of the people are using the credit cards, and you face a complete different challenge for the retail.
So what are some other forms of payment that are being used in those markets right now?
Well, after credit cards, let me say in the Ukraine it's cash on delivery, which makes e-commerce especially very difficult. There are debit cards, plus local payment methods which are very adapted to the legal framework of each country. And the last group is really coming up very fast. So I think in Turkey there are 7 or 8 local players and 3 international players for alternative cards. Right? But at the end, if you look at the emerging markets, they have different challenges and other challenges. Maybe they are not that sophisticated in retail, but they have young population, love to spend money, and the entire, I think the future of retail is depending how good the retailers will be managing the challenges. Look, if we talk about this, there is payment, there is localization, there is iBeacon, there is big data, identifying the right consumers. The conversion rates are still low. There is e-commerce, there is mobile commerce already disrupting e-commerce. But it all goes back to the retailers. And if they, and everything is new, I would say this all developed in the last 5 to 10 years. And nobody could have forecasted this 10 years ago. So the future of the retail is highly depending on the ability of the retailers to manage this and adapt themselves. Yes, in the US you have different challenges, and in Turkey or in Israel or in Indonesia you have other challenges, but they are always the same topics. Let's say the same 10 topics. Maybe in the US it's more about iBeacon technology and ultrasound. In Turkey it's big data and privacy. In Indonesia it's payment systems. In Germany it's localization.
That's a great point. Joern, you were saying before that Wirecard has half of its employees nearly in Asia.
Yeah.
So what are some stories from Asian markets that you can tell?
So first of all, you mentioned Indonesia, which is a very interesting market for us. What we see, there are two main problems. The first is smaller, micro merchants want to have access to card payments. Systems like Square really work, because the normal mobile terminal for them costs 200 to 300 euros. The gap is really wide. If you find a cheap solution for them to get into the card payment, to take card payments, you really change stuff. The other thing is the more established retailers always think they want to add something up. For instance, the terminals that we use in Indonesia, they have always additional services. Payment is the baseline. Then we have mini ATMs, bill payments, P2P payments, insurance stuff. So the situation there is totally different, because they combine different concepts. But in a way, if you look at the country like Indonesia, you see the mobile usage is so high, it's really exploding, and they missed what we call the desktop revolution. In a way, they're jumping right on mobile, so the potential is really great over there. So I think these kind of markets, the process to walk into the mobile payments will be much stronger than in Europe, where everything is settled, where you can do a payment everywhere. So from a payment perspective, these are markets that are really up to explode.
So I guess we talked about a lot of different approaches of how to make retail, or how to provide a better service to the consumer. I wonder, looking beyond what each of you guys do, how do you think the retail space is going to look like in 5 years? So beyond the particular solution that you're working on right now, how is the world going to look like that at the moment is dominated by Amazon, that gives you very quick free delivery? I believe Amazon used to build all their fulfillment centers in very cheap areas. Now Amazon builds fulfillment centers in all the big metropolis in the US. Everyone now with Postmates and sort of other delivery service gets used to even within the hour delivery. So I think the lines between mobile, retail, and whatever are completely blurring. So what are you guys' takes on what's going to happen in 5 years?
Well, I'll take a stab at it. I think the next 5 years are going to look very different. In 5 years from today, 2019, I think we're going to miss a lot of very well-known store names that we have known for many years, for decades. I think there's only two outcomes here. There will be the stores that will not make it through this phase, and they will go away. And then there will be stores that get way better than they are today, and they will be thriving. And then there will be stores we've never heard of that came into existence in the next 5 years. They will be called Fruit Ball or whatever they come up with. And they will be really hot and everybody wants to go to Fruit Ball in 5 years from today. And then you will wonder, why does everybody want to go to Fruit Ball? Because Fruit Ball has understood what shopping is about. Shopping is no longer about, I'm not going to the store because I need something. I would even go further and say you don't even go because you want something. I think the reason you're going to go to a store in 5 years from today is because you want to feel better. Because you want to be excited when you walk in, because you want to be uplifted, because you want to love it. It's almost like going on a mini vacation to go shopping. And the reason why I believe physical stores will still exist is not because people are not learning that online is better. I think it's because people still want to go out of the house from time to time. And the very simple reason why people go shopping when they go out of the house is because they're too lazy to go hiking. That would be much healthier. So they will end up going shopping, they go to the store, you need some destination with your family on the weekends. You could go to the forest, most people won't, they will go to the store. And then the store has to change what it's about. Ultimately, there are two main changes that I think that are gonna happen. One is the store needs to change the entire role what it's for. It's no longer a warehouse where I pick up items, walk around, throw them in the cart, and then I line up at the register in order to be allowed to pay. Does that sound like a great experience? It has to be more like, I welcome you, I inspire you, it's a beautiful experience, and I feel better just by looking at it. That's number one. We can't help with that as third parties. They have to do that themselves. We can give advice, and that's about it. But the second part is really interesting. I believe that there will be a digital overlay on top of the physical world, almost like a digital layer that gets wrapped on top of the real world. And that layer makes a store your store. It becomes like a personal lens on your store. I walk in and it knows me. And it says, hi Lucas, how are you today? And it welcomes you and it shows you which item you should look at and all the things you love from Amazon. The people like this product also like that product. Why in the world is that not available in the real world? It's a much bigger world. So it needs to go there. It needs to recommend things that I like. It needs to guide me. It needs to tell me what's interesting here today, what other people have liked, what's hot, what's new, what's trending. And then it needs to reward me just for being there. And all of these things come together into one package. And that is the second layer that I'm really excited about. The store will look different and it will be more personal because of technology. And whether it's the smartphone or my iWatch or my glasses, whatever it is, the form factor changes, but the principle doesn't change. It basically means the power of online is coming to offline. And I believe the future of online is offline because of that.
Well, good points. I agree. I think the future of retail will be an integrated experience, integrated between, online, mobile, physical store, and whatever will come up in the next 3 to 5 years. I think also the future of retail will be reduced brand loyalty, because all the technology is providing an incredible amount of transparency. And with transparency, you will go where you will find the best offer in the online-offline combination of the world. So it will be not the store you are going today and always do, but you will get good offers, customized. It will be a different experience. And again, the guys who have to manage this are the retailers. We are all, some providers, but it will be the retailers, and the retailers who will not manage this, they will disappear.
I would agree with a lot of what you said. I think the future of retail is already here in many ways, but it's unevenly distributed, as is the case with many futuristic things. So like if you look at the Apple Store, the Apple stores are trying to delight you with the experience, and I think they're leading the way in many ways in terms of interesting use cases for technology. They're experimenting with iBeacons in their store. I think proximity, in-store proximity, is going to become more and more important in the future of retail. But you know, these kinds of stores are pushing for an experience where you go into the Apple Store not because you necessarily want to buy an Apple product, but because you want to experience all the cool stuff that Apple is building, and you want to be a part of that experience and a part of the brand, and you can get that by being in store and see the awesome things that are being built for the Apple platform. And I think we see other retailers that are trying to follow that kind of example and move in that direction. And I think certainly technology is going to play a big role in doing that. The problem is that we all want the mom and pop experience of I walk into the store and they tell me, oh, hi Nick, you know, welcome back. Did you enjoy the jeans that you bought last week? But that doesn't scale. But with technology, we can provide the intelligence that allows large retail organizations to scale that sort of experience down to individual customers, and proximity is really a key enabling technology there, in my opinion.
And in my perspective, coming from a payment perspective, I think there are three technologies that will change the point of sale of the retail. Really, one is Bluetooth Low Energy, like we discussed. The other is host card emulation. This is a new standard of Google in KitKat, where you can like store your credit card data in a secure token on your phone or in the cloud. And the other thing is EMVTT. EMVTT is a certification issue that you can use like all the data that is on your chip of your credit card in a mobile environment. And with this kind of technology, it's possible that you walk into the store, you check in via BLE, you take the goods that you like, and then proceed the checkout really with your mobile phone. There's no terminal needed. Everything is software-based, and in principle, I think this is really the future of, say, there will be no cashier lines on the cashier system, there will be no cash handling and stuff like this. You will walk in there, you grab the goods, you have all the data that you, in a secure way, on your mobile phone, and the merchant has systems who can take this data. The big question is, why is there a terminal involved, really? So in our vision, this is a system where mobile and e-commerce technology form like a new checkout process on the mobile, in the retail environment, and this is something we are really looking forward to.
I'm really surprised that none of you guys mentioned drones. No, but Cyriac, you made an interesting point with virtual reality. I guess like you guys all heard about Facebook buying Oculus Rift, which is essentially like a big camera that you put in your eyes, and it creates a virtual reality around you. So I'd actually be interested in that. We're still all talking about like traditional forms, or like in sort of that future retail scenario, we're still talking about traditional forms of payment and sort of semi-traditional like physical spaces that we go into. But I find that vision of the virtual reality quite interesting, because that will have the potential to completely change the physicality of where we shop, and where we get that. So is Facebook going to be the biggest virtual retailer in 5 years?
I think it's entirely possible that Facebook will have a huge presence in commerce in 5 years, given their enormous scale. That said, and because of the technology they just bought, Oculus and other,
and because of the data
and other initiatives, and they just hired David Marcus from PayPal. So I'm sure they're very much thinking about commerce. Nevertheless, that said, it is not very easy to merge social and commerce in a smart way and do it well. And I do think it's possible. I think there's some very smart ways of doing it that could be very exciting. But I think so far nobody has cracked the combination of social and shopping in a very, let's say, impactful, scalable way. And I think the reason for that is very simple, because I believe it's fundamentally misunderstood what social and shopping have in common. The reason why I'm saying this is because I ultimately believe shopping is a selfish activity. It's not a social activity. You may tell your friends that you've bought something, or girlfriends may want to hang out together at a store, but how many times are they doing it versus talking about it? In most cases, it's really hard to match up and say we're going out together, we're going shopping. So it's an exception, it's not the norm. So what shopping can be about, it could be really, really powerful about, is the idea of social being about the community rather than about your friends. And I think there are some really interesting concepts behind it. And the player that best shows how to do that so far is Pinterest, I think. Because they're the closest about the idea that it's about the item and not about the person. And people contributing different items to the party for everyone. So I think there's a lot of potential here, and Facebook could be a big player if they understand the differences between normal friendship and shopping and friendship, because there are some very significant differences, I think.
I see. Just maybe let's do a quick round. What is your favorite shopping experience? Whether that's online, whether that's in a physical store, whether that's on mobile, or even something that we haven't talked about. I guess like television becoming like a big platform to take or to shop and to make shopping decisions.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Oh, sure. So, what is your favorite shopping experience? Regardless if it's a mobile, it's a physical store, it's online. And maybe something that we haven't talked about at all is television. Like everyone's...
Yeah. I think we, in Europe, we're running the payment process for I think every television or home shopping network. So there's a big, this is a very big market, which is a big underestimated. We see like they're playing around with like different tools like QR codes, even like music. Certain music connects you to the mobile phone of users. So there's a lot of going on that is a bit under the radar. Speaking of myself, I'm really, if someone like thinks about me in a way as a customer, this is really what convinces me. I had this one little example, which sounds a bit crazy really, but I bought a new coffee machine, and after half a year they gave me a tab for the cleaning of the machine. And this, I was like astonished, because someone really thought about my shopping history and done something very intelligent. And this is happening so seldomly, really, that right now everybody is talking about a lot of things that is possible. But in the end, what, for instance, e-com in the communication does is it's a very huge amount of dumps spamming in the way. So if there's some intelligence in the system, I really go for this.
Nick, what's your favorite shopping experience?
I have to say my favorite shopping experience is shopping for products that don't exist yet, and sort of cruising the sites where people are crowdfunding products that are not yet in existence, and seeing stuff that people are envisioning, and sort of seeing a snippet of the future and buying that kind of stuff. So that's what I like to do best when I'm actually shopping. But second to that, and not a distant second by any means, is actually going out and shopping with friends. I really enjoy like taking a day on a Sunday to go around a nice district in San Francisco and go into secondhand stores and go around as a sort of social activity. So I think what you were saying before about, you know, shopping and social being really great, a really great combination, those are really great experiences for me as well.
My favorite shopping experience is a small jewelry shop in Istanbul. It's a very small shop. Every time I come to that shop, they say, "Hi, Sina." They know what I have bought the last time, and they are very friendly, and it feels very customized. And this is my favorite experience. Even I go there maybe twice a year, not that often, but it feels like something very, like, you know, shopping at home or something like that.
When I want to feel better, I go to Crate and Barrel. Because I walk in there and it's just beautifully assorted, beautifully decorated, and I keep in mind how different it is from going into a discount store. You know, it's like the opposite example of you walk in, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous. Unfortunately, they have no idea who I am, but I'm sure that will all change in the next 5 years, because then somebody will say, "Welcome, Cyriac, we're glad you're here." And in the meantime, we can all help get there.
That's interesting. I love that you brought up the jewelry shop example. Sometimes I have the feeling that technology that's making the whole shopping experience more efficient, we're losing the connection to culture, right? So what's your take on that? Like, what's your take on? I mean, I guess we've talked about technology, but I feel like on my phone, like everything still looks the same. It's HTML5, JavaScript, like looks very clean design. How I mean, I guess the pragmatic question for retailers, how are they going to distinguish themselves in different cultural environments? And just from a personal question, how do you think that technology allows to like distinguish like from culture to culture?
Well, I think that's a really good point, and something that technologists often don't think about is that often technology sets the culture and sets a cultural tone. And as technologists, we need to be very careful about what kind of tones we're setting. I think of I used to live in Amsterdam, and they had these strip carts that you would pay for the tram with, where you would stamp how far you were going. So it was, N+1 zones that you were going to travel through. And if you were traveling with a friend and he forgot his strip card, you could stamp twice for 2 people, and you're traveling together. Oh, I forgot my strip card, and that was a very generous thing, and it was a portion of the culture. You're not exactly shopping, but you're spending money anyway. And they switched over to RFID cards, a great technological solution that gave them better information about who was on the tram, and that was a fantastic example of a new technology coming in, but it also changed the culture, because I could no longer check in my friend, and that possibility for generosity ended. And I think it was really a loss for the culture there of generosity that existed before that. And so I think as technologists, we need to be careful about how is the technology impacting the culture, and what kind of culture are we creating with these sorts of technologies.
Any other takes on that? Otherwise, thank you guys very much for contributing all your perspectives to the future of retail. And I still wonder, and I still think that going to like a fresh grocery store, going to like a nice market, still an amazing experience. And I'm not sure if I want to exchange that necessarily for shopping on my mobile phone for like delicious food. So thank you very much.
Thank you for moderating.
Thank you.
Thank you.